Imagine you could generate social media posts with just a few button clicks. That's exactly what I'm going to show you in this video. We built this solution here that allows us to create content that we can then publish on social media. In this particular case, I'm going to demonstrate that with LinkedIn. So I have this example here where this post was generated fully with make.com through AI automation. And I'm going to show you how that works. So this is the text of the post. Then we have a few sources as well as a beautiful little image. So now let's look at this particular post, how we created it. It's inside of my Airtable database. So here specifically, you don't see the table, the database of Airtable. Airtable is a tool, if you don't know yet, which is basically a database on steroids, which has a bunch of really amazing features. One of them is to have interfaces. And this interface that you can see here with a few options here on the left-hand side and this beautiful screen here on the right-hand side is one of those things that you can build in Airtable. So let's look at the flow as to how we can generate such a post. Well, the first thing that we have is brand data. So you can generate multiple different brands that you want to have. One that I have here is, for example, my AI automation specialist brand. And I have a few information about it. For example, the brand name, brand email, the language that I want to use. So here you see there are a few different options available. Then the brand details, so about the brand. So basically your mission statement or something like that. And then your content guidelines that you want to use for your posts. Okay. Then once we have that, we have this button at the top right corner, which says generate idea. Once I click on this button, you see it when it goes to in progress, and then I will find it under my content generator as a new content piece. So it came up with this new idea. And now this idea by default is pending. So the idea itself is how influencers can save hours with AI tools, automating captions, post schedules, and hashtag research. All right, pretty good. So let's say I like this idea, or let's say I want to make a few changes to the idea and then like the idea. So let's say I don't like this last part and hashtag research. So let's just say and post schedules. And then I just go ahead and say, I like this idea. So you can obviously also put it to bad idea, but I'm just going to say good idea. With setting the status to good idea, it automatically goes to content data and generates this post for me. So this post itself is not yet a LinkedIn post. It's just a general post with some general details, which then can be used to post it on different platforms. So this is going to be the basis for the different types of content that you could produce from it. So for example, one of the types of content could be LinkedIn, right? And for LinkedIn, you need a certain format, you need a certain amount of letters that you want to use or characters and so forth. So as you see, this takes a little while. It has to go through a make automation, which is, I believe, the content creation, this part right here. So it goes through this automation to then generate the content. So it goes through Perplexity to do the research, then it creates the content based on that, and then it generates an image. Okay, so let's look at that. There we are. It generated the image. We have the topic. This is the general content on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, we have the sources. So then we can go and set the post status to initiate. So once we do that, it will go over to my posts and it will generate the post for me. And it will put it down here, how influencers can save hours with AI tools. So this is the content that it created for LinkedIn. And now I can just go ahead and set the status to good to go, or I can make changes. Let's say I don't like all of these icons here. I want to get rid of those. So I'm going to just do that manually. Now, obviously you could leave them in there, or you could change the prompt and tell in the automation that you don't want to have any of these special icons. And then once we got that, and I'm happy with the post, I can say good to go. And that will then trigger the automation that will post the post to LinkedIn. So it will then go and do this final post part, which is content publishing. So we separated those automations into 5 separate automations. Obviously, you could put it all together into one automation, but I wanted to have a certain level of control over every single step because maybe the idea isn't great, maybe the way the idea is broken down isn't so great. Maybe I want to make changes to the image itself. So one of the things that you can do is you can either attach an image that you want to use instead, or you can click on this regenerate image, which then will go through this scenario where it generates an image. All right, and then after all of that is done, we should see that there is a new post for Thomas Müller. This is just a test account here. So you see here, are you an influencer looking to save time and elevate your content game? And there we are. This is the post that was generated for me within seconds with the image, with the text, and that's pretty much it. So one thing, by the way, that you might have noticed is that the sources didn't work properly. Okay, so in case the sources don't work properly, we can just re-trigger the automation at that point where it creates the sources. So you see here in content data, that's where we should have the sources. And if I go to any of the other items, you see I actually get sources here. So usually I get these sources, but for some reason in this demo that I was showing you, I didn't get those. So let me just delete this post. Well, I would have to log in as Thomas Müller, but then I can delete this post and I can re-trigger all of these automations. I can just say, well, I don't need to come up with a new idea. Maybe I just like the idea already. So I could set it back to pending and back to good idea, and then it will build the idea out for me. Okay, so then you can also, by the way, set the status to just be pending, and then you will only see the pending ideas and you don't have to see all of them. So that's really the cool thing about all of these beautiful interface options that you have here. So this is an example of an interface that you can build, or interfaces that you can build with this tool called Airtable. And if you look at the database here, so these are the database items that we have. So we have the brand assets. Here you can create multiple different brands. You see we have the ID, brand name, brand logo, brand email, language, about the brand, content guidelines, then this button, generate idea, content idea table. So this is just a lookup table where it's connected to this content idea table, and the content data where it's connected to the content data. So now let's look at the content idea table. We have the idea, content topic ideas with the status and the brand that is associated to a given content. Then we have the content data, and these are the individual content items. The ones that I just created are down here. So for example, how influencers can save hours with AI tools, automating captions and post schedules. Okay. And then we have the sources, the language, the image regeneration button, as well as the post status, the created property, posts, record ID, and finally the brand. So then finally we have the post itself. So you see here, I only have LinkedIn for now, but obviously you could extend that to also post this on Twitter, on X, on Facebook, on Instagram, or wherever you want. So here we just have the ID, the title, the image. Well, both of those you see are lookups. Then the content, which is a long text, the website, which is a single select, the status as a single select, and the content data, which is a link to another record. So I think I said lookup here where I actually meant the link. It was probably here. So actually it was here. So I said that this would be a lookup, but it's actually a link to another record. So from here, I can see which posts were generated for this brand. For example, post 26. I can jump to that post and I can see, all right, that was the post that was created. And then it reads the details or loads the details on the right-hand side. Okay, so that's the table. Now let's look at the scenarios, okay? I'm gonna show you how those scenarios look like roughly. I don't want to go too much into depth. If you want to download those templates, you have to join my AI automation specialist community. You will find the link in the description below. There you will learn everything that you need to know about AI automation to build out automations such as the one that you're seeing in this video. And also you are going to get all the resources that you need in order to just create it within a few minutes instead of having to learn it for many hours and build it from scratch within a week or so. Okay, so it's gonna save you a lot of time, so it's definitely worth investing into the AI automation specialist community. Right, so let's look at the automations. So the first one is the content idea generation. So what do we need to do here? Well, let's look at it step by step. So first we have this webhook, And this webhook then is triggered through an automation inside of our Airtable. So therefore we have a few automations, for example, generate idea. So this one is triggered when a button is clicked, and then we just run a script which calls this trigger that we just had. So this webhook URL. So it will just run this webhook. If you don't understand what's going on here, you will definitely need to check out my course on the AI automation specialists. So specifically this one here, AI automation masterclass. Once you've gone through this course, what I'm showing you will be a piece of cake and you will fully understand what's going on. So just sharing the code with you, this is what the code looks like. In case you want to type it out, you can just take a screenshot and then put it into ChatGPT and tell it, hey, give me the code that you see in the screen if you want to save some time. Then once we generate the idea, so once this webhook is called, then we get a record from the database. This Airtable module gets then the brand asset from the record ID. So here, if we go to the data, we find that there are these brand assets and we want to create an idea that fits to this brand. So that is perfect for that particular brand, AI automation specialist, for example. It then considers, takes into consideration details about the brand, about the content, what kind of content we want and how we want the content to be. And then based on that, it comes up with the idea. So it takes the details about the brand, then it goes through this prompt here, where it just says, generate content ideas based on brand name and about the brand, okay? And I want it to be in plain text or surrounded by the plain text tags, you could say. And then we use this text parser to only get the content which is inside of the plain text. And let me actually show you how that is going to look like. If we just go to this iteration, you will see that as an input, you get from this module, from this OpenAI module, you get this content here. So the plain text with this content. And then we just take the plain text itself. So it means we only take the text here. So what this allows us to do is it allows us to get rid of all the other fluff that ChatGPT often does. Oh yeah, thank you for writing me a completion request. Here are the answers to your question. And instead of getting all of this stuff at the top, which it does, or the question, how can I help you otherwise, at the bottom, for example, we avoid that by using these, this plain text approach, okay? Just so you're aware what's going on. Then we have this other module here, and what it does is here it just says provide a social media post topic for the following niche, which it gets from this text parser. Embed the topic in a plain text code snippet. Do not enclose the topic name in quotes. The example response should also be in plain text and topic name. So this is where I get the idea, so to speak, for our next post. And you see it gives me this response, plain text, but we use this text parser to only get the actual idea itself. So here it says how influencers can save hours with AI tools, automating and so forth. And then we create a record based on that. So at this point, we create a new record inside of, let me actually go into the diagram to show you where we create that. So we create it in the content idea table. There we can create the topic ideas as value. We set the status to pending, and we set the brand to be the record ID that we got at the beginning of this whole automation with this webhook, because we want to also know the, if we go here, content idea table, we want to store the brand. You see that here, it stores the brand for that idea. Okay, so now that we have that automation, let's go over to the next one. And here, that's where we are with the content creation. So we're using a webhook, which is triggered once this automation is done. So here, if we set the status to is good idea. So at this point, we create a record inside of our content topic ideas. And then this webhook is then actually not called at this point yet, but when we say generate content, okay? So we then say when a new record is created. So here we create a new record inside of content data. Inside of here, we create a new record, okay? And once we create a new record, we also say run this script. And the script is basically, again, just using the webhook or calling the webhook URL and passing the record ID, okay? Once we do that, and by the way, again, here, this is what the code looks like. Then we go and we get the record from this table. So this from this content data table. And we get it for that particular record ID for which we got the webhook. And then we use Perplexity AI to do some research. So for the following topic, generate a content piece in a plain text code snippet. And then it just creates the topic with plain text as well as markdown for all of the code. Okay, so ensure the content is in plain text code snippet. Okay, once that happens, we use this. Well, again, we can go into the last executions. There you will find it. Actually, the last one isn't great because it didn't work perfectly. Let me go to one that actually worked perfectly. So here we then take the text that we got. So this is the text that was generated. And then this is the markdown. So what we do is we first say, give me only the plain text. So this module here, this match pattern, it gives me the output, which is just the text without the URLs. And then the second one is only getting me the URLs. All right. So here at this point, I only get the URL. Yeah, well, here you can see the URLs or the citation, so to speak. And then we use this other ChatGPT module to create a image prompt. Then we make sure that the prompt is in the right format, and then we generate the image. Okay. So here at this point, the image is generated based on the prompt, and the image is then updated inside of this Airtable. So just so you're not entirely lost. So then it's stored inside of contents data, and it updates the general content, the sources, the file URL. So this is where the image is stored, and it gives it the name, which is just the ID of our content item. Okay. So if we look at here, this ID here, for example, okay, it just gives it that as a name. Then we go to the next step, which is to, so at this point we are ready to generate images, right? We have an image prompt. So we create an image prompt here. We have the text as well as the URLs, so the citations. So here just quickly, that's still in part one. That's where it creates the image prompt. Okay. So this automation is actually already creating the image prompt, and this one is creating an image, and we're then storing both. But then inside of part two, we have this automation that is triggered once we want to, or in case we want to regenerate an image. So what this will do is it will be triggered once we click on this button. Let me show you inside of the interfaces here. So once we click on the content idea, I think content data here, regenerate image. So once, let's say I don't like this image and I click on this regenerate image, it will come up with a new image. And the cool thing is that you cannot only generate new images here. Maybe you have an image in mind, or you want to take an image of yourself that you want to put in there. Then you could just go ahead and click on this attach file button here, and you can replace that to your liking. All right. So there we are. We have a new image. So if I don't like that image either, I can regenerate image, and then it will generate a new image for me. Okay, so that's what this automation does. Nothing fancy, pretty much a simple same approach that we saw in this other automation. And then we have this content initiate. So here, this is where we have a webhook again. So this webhook will be triggered once we have this initiate post creation. So there we see when a record matches conditions, we run a script. So here, once we set the post status is initiate, which means that if you go to here, content, and we click this to initiate. So once the status is set to initiate, then this automation is triggered, which then runs a script again, which just triggers a webhook, which then starts this automation. Okay, so in this automation, we again get a record from the database, from the content data database. We then have this router. Currently, the router is empty. There's nothing else going on. So it's not really necessary, really, but I just have it as a placeholder here because what we have right now is this whole part here is to generate LinkedIn content. So let's say we click plus, and then this part would be for LinkedIn content, and whatever you put down here, that would be for, let's say, Instagram content, or for Facebook content, or Twitter content, or Blue Stacks, or whatever it's called, content, right? So that's what this would be for. So I'm gonna get rid of that because we are not using it. So then that's where we are actually creating the LinkedIn content. So we say, hey, go ahead and create a LinkedIn content piece based on the information that we get here. So here, summarize the following content accordingly so that it can be posted on LinkedIn. So we get the general content, and we get surrounded by this text markup, so to speak. And then we use this parser here, this global text parser with this pattern to only give us the text as output. And then we use this router, and what it does is it either creates a content piece straight away. That is, if the language is set to English. If the language isn't set to English, so here it says language not equal English. In that case, we want to trigger this prompt, which then translates it into the selected language. Okay. So if we look at our automation here in our database, you see we have this language set to English. If I wanted to post a content piece, let's say in German, I would have to select German here. And well, actually in my interface, I would have had to select German when creating the content. And I believe it's at brand data level. There we are. So we have to set up the language at brand data level. So it will take this brand data language, and then based on that, it would translate the content piece and store the translated version inside of the database. Okay. And finally, the last part of the automation is the actual publishing of the content. So at this point, what we have is again a webhook. This one will be triggered once we click on any of the given posts. So let's say this one here, and we set the status to good to go. So once we set the status to good to go, it will start this automation here. So this webhook will be triggered. It gets the record. So it gets the post, then it gets the record about the content data, and then it goes ahead and posts the image and everything on to LinkedIn. So we have this HTTP module in order to get the URL, and that's just because the way that we want to display the image inside of our post is through this HTTP get a file, which it automatically gets from this module here. Okay, otherwise it would have to be it's a little more complicated. So you need to have your account connected. So here you can select add, and then you can say OpenID connect, and then you can select your connection type and then connect to your LinkedIn account, and then your LinkedIn account will be ready to go, and it will then generate the post on your LinkedIn. It will also update the record inside of posts in Airtable, where it's going to change the status to be done. So if we go back here, this status before was good to go, now it's done. So once the whole automation is finished, and if it didn't work, something went wrong, for example, the connection didn't work, or uploading the file didn't work, or publishing on LinkedIn didn't work, then it will automatically jump into this branch. So it will go to the bottom branch, and in that case, it would set the value here to error. Okay, so this red status that you can see down there. So, and also in case that this HTTP get a file, so downloading the actual image from the record that we got from the database, if that didn't work, then it will also go to posts and set the status to error. Okay, and that is pretty much our automation for content generation. So automatically generate LinkedIn content that fits your brand. You can generate as many ideas as you want. You can select the ideas that you like. You can publish them to your liking. And that's pretty much it. So I hope you enjoyed it. That's it for this video. And by the way, if you haven't joined my AI automation specialist community yet, now's the time. You definitely should do that. The price will only increase over time, so make sure you get it with the cheapest option available, which is right now. And then you get access to this AI automation masterclass, but then also to a bunch of other templates that you can not only use for yourself, but also potentially use to offer as services to your customers. And while you learn all of these things and use all of these automations, you are going to be enabled to either build SaaS solutions or just offer this as a service. So thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and see you in the next video.